A lot of people seem unhappy with mapping lately in the Prophecy League. I hear a lot of complaints about running red maps and not being worth it, and it doesn't pay off, and you should run gorges and yellow maps all day because sustaining costs too much and it's much safer. If you're having trouble with mapping and don't want to farm Uber Lab because your build wasn't made for it or it doesn't pay well and you don't find the content fun, it's actually really easy to farm red maps in the Prophecy League, and especially the Hardcore Prophecy League. This is my pool within a week of doing this, and after selling a lot of maps. What you're going to need is the Prophecy, the Dreamer's Dream. The Dreamer's Dream says you will enter a certain map, and when you slay the very powerful foe that has made it its home, it will drop a rare map. Now, this seems kind of obvious at face value. Just go into a red map, kill the bosses, and get a map back. But this prophecy in the hardcore league sells for 1 to 2 chaos, so people aren't valuing it very highly. Now, there's a couple of reasons why people wouldn't value this prophecy very highly. First of all, the idea is I'll go into a tier 15 map and get a dungeon and return. Or they tried it a couple of times and it dropped nothing and they thought it wasn't worth the effort. Essentially, this prophecy works like this. When you kill an enemy that's considered a map boss, it will have a chance to drop a rare map. This isn't an area prophecy like Tempest or Monstrous Treasure. You don't need to unseal it or reseal it to activate it for a particular map. This is also not a guarantee like Wealthy Exile. This is just a chance that when you kill something considered a map boss, that it will drop a rare map. And when you start using a lot of these, you'll notice that the map that drops is never below -1 map level. So that means a boss in a tier 13 map won't drop below tier 12, 14s won't drop below 13s, and 15s won't drop below 14s. And to add to this, this is a chance to activate on any enemy considered a map boss. So for example, a courtyard and an excavation, they have 3 map bosses. Each one has a chance to activate this prophecy. It also works on twin maps. Each boss will have a chance to activate this prophecy. And while you can't have multiples of the same prophecy active at the same time, if a map drops from this prophecy, you can unseal another one. And if there are any more bosses in the map, it can activate again in that same map. This means you can take a courtyard map, roll 2 unique bosses, or use the prophecy Deadly Twins, and you'll have 6 chances at a map drop. And if the prophecy activates, you can just unseal another to keep upping your chances at map drops. So this is how the prophecy works, and after testing it on Twin Courtyard, this is how I built my map pool. I farmed Vingtar Square. Vingtar Square is a tier 13 map with 4 bosses that can drop maps through this prophecy. I haven't gotten a single map drop from the prophecy against the main boss that drops the Vessel of Vingtar. The map is also a 44% pack size, and on a well-made ranged character, it's pretty easy if you carry a Topaz Flask and off-screen the bosses. Because of the pack size, anything that adds more monsters is pretty helpful here for XP and other map drops. When I did this in the middle of the league, it cost around 20 chaos to make the map through the Agnaroth staffs. And the worst flask sold for about 20 to 25 chaos. The OK flask sold for about 35 to 45 chaos. And the Fist of Lightning flask sold for about 80 to 100 chaos. This made it so that running Vingtar Square paid for the prophecies that gave me these maps. On a side note, I tried to activate the Deadly Twin Prophecy on this map and it wouldn't activate. I don't know if I just got unlucky or if it's just not programmed. It's likely just not programmed. There is no reason for GGG to implement a twin version of this map when no one could activate it before. Now, while it was tempting to just run twin maps all day, I didn't feel like it was a real cost-effective way to spend my currency just for one single role. I did run Twin 15 maps on request that were either magic or all 3 gold, and they did pay off. Essentially, what this allowed me to do was offset the cost of rolling maps into the Prophecy and Xana's Bloodline mod. The cost isn't too bad when you have a decent pool of maps that's never likely to die down. I used other prophecies to add to my maps. I'd use Deadly Twins on a good non-twin map, but things that added more monsters to a pack size map were pretty good. Anarchy's End and Deadly Rivalry towards the end add a lot of exiles to a tier 15 map, and using multiple wealthy exile prophecies makes them drop a full set of eye level 84 rares. So my time was generally spent between mapping and adding prophecies to maps, sealing the ones that sealing and selling the ones that I didn't want, and getting rid of the bad ones. But for the most part, doing this, I was able to run a lot of twin T14 and 15 maps, to the point where I was sharing them pretty consistently on the Global 820 channel, because this was a lot easier than spamming trade to sell the challenge itself. Now, is this worth it for you? Well, that depends. Just on the price alone, for me, this was worth it. 1 to 2 chaos per prophecy, while the lowest tier 12 map sold for 4 chaos, it made sense. But the reason I actually did this was because I didn't feel like running lab all day. It's got nothing against the lab. I think it's pretty good content for the game, and my character can do it pretty easily. But I only got it to pay off 1 out of 12 times, and I didn't feel like running it all day. Also, when I play this game on my spare time, I couldn't see myself just spending it all doing gorge and plateau rotations for XP and not picking up anything. I don't have a real desire to get to 100. I'm not an expert like the streamers or racers that you see, and I didn't even expect to hit 95 on the character while doing this. Even though my character's pretty safe and can clear pretty fast, I do like to slow down a lot when I'm mapping. Overall, I felt like I challenged myself and I got rewarded for it. I did all this on my own. I didn't start out with any maps at all. Just started with the Vingtars, and it just felt good running higher tier maps, fighting the bosses, getting rewarded from them, to the point where when maps dropped from regular mobs, they always felt like bonuses to me. And beating all these bosses twin for the first time felt pretty good. So if any of that interests you, or you've got a way to do this more efficiently, go ahead and give it a shot. Now, if you want to use this prophecy, here are some tips. If you have trustworthy friends or guildmates that can help on map bosses, either with DPS or with support, this will actually help your chance at getting returns. Each person who has this prophecy can have it activate on a map boss, though I don't think it can activate twice on the same boss from multiple people. That said, when this prophecy activates, the map will be allocated to the prophecy holder and not the map maker. So you should do it with someone you trust so that you can keep growing a map pool together. The core mini bosses didn't seem to drop anything for me. I don't think they're considered map bosses, so don't plan on running this on core unless you can kill the Eater of Souls. The other bosses won't drop anything for you. If you're gonna roll courtyards and excavations, and you are pretty confident on most map mods, consider evaling these maps if you have a good amount of these maps. The reason being is A, you can get sacrifice pieces, and B, you can roll a +1 map level, or C, you can get a Val Temple map, which is a tier 14 map with 3 bosses in it. And if you're confident on killing those, they can activate the prophecy as well. This is also something you should watch out for. Though it hasn't happened to me in a map, it happened to me 4 times in my hideout, that when I activated a prophecy, it crashed my game. Now, it's pretty rare. I don't know what causes it, But when you're unsealing this prophecy mid map during the boss fight, consider standing in a safe spot, or if you can afford it, burning a portal just so that you don't die. I personally didn't go out of my way to do this, but if you're worried, go ahead and stay safe this way. If you're farming Uber at Ziri, I believe the twin valves, and the trio can all activate the prophecy. I never tried this in hardcore, but I think it works that way. You might have a hard time activating multiple in the middle of a fight. Personally, I generally put the sealed prophecy, on the first slot in my inventory to activate it quickly during a boss fight. Remember, this is only a chance to drop a map. It feels like 1/4 or 1/3 of a chance, but I'm not exactly sure. But you will get strings of map drops after map drops consecutively, but you also get strings of nothing dropping after nothing dropping. Don't get discouraged. The prophecy didn't stop working. You don't have to unseal or reseal it. It's just bad RNG when it occurs consecutively like that. This is why this works when you have a lot of red maps or a lot of bosses to kill. So you can start by there buying a good base or offsetting the cost like I did with Vingtars at first. Excavations right now in Hardcore Prophecy are 5 to 6 chaos. People don't like the layout on the bosses, but it does have some pretty nice divination cards compared to Courtyard, which are more expensive. So you might consider starting that way if you're sure on chaos. So this footage was taken from my League starter, a Pathfinder explosive arrow build. I started doing this at around level 90. The character has pretty high life, good defenses from flasks, 100% chance to burn, and has Vingtars for shock. And it's really just an excuse to run the Adrenaline Flask on a Pathfinder. That said, there's a lot of good boss killing builds out there. Poison's pretty strong, and a lot of builds have access to it. There's a lot of good curse effectiveness out there. There are good guardian supports, and so it shouldn't be hard to find good boss killing builds to fight these higher tier maps. Um, that's it. If you're new to fighting a lot of higher tier map bosses, I'd suggest bringing a decoy totem. Decoy totem messes with a lot of bosses' AIs to the point where they become jokes if when taunted completely. Um, and if you have enough damage, you can probably kill a lot of these during the taunt of the first decoy totem. And you usually will have to end up taking one hit from bosses that can get the hit on before the taunt activates. But after that, you'll have a bit of time for just pure damage on a boss. And that should help out a lot. Aside from that, enjoy and stay safe, I guess.